Let's say you're a beginner rider. Let's say you've cracked open YouTube.com and let's say you've looked up the best motorcycling channel on YouTube. Well, if you spent any amount of time on our channel, you know that we think the Husqvarna Svartpilen 401 over here is probably the best beginner bike option, right, Spite?
Yeah, I mean, we gave one of these away and it really blew our minds back then of how much you were getting for your dollar. It was amazing what you could get.
Yeah, it's a very cool little motorcycle, and in fact, we have received so many DMs and comments and messages on our Discord about people who actually found that video and bought this bike because of that video. We actually looked back just now. That video's up to 615,000 views. Holy crap, Husky, where's our paycheck? Oh, we have sold a lot of motorcycles for you. But today, we wanted to figure out if something like this Honda CRF 300L, our new beginner bike giveaway motorcycle, can live up to the Svartpilen 401. What makes this motorcycle so special over something like this, and can this bike even keep up with it on road? Well, today we're gonna find out. All right, Spite, so we've said that the Husky is basically the perfect beginner bike, so why are we making this video then?
Well, so one of the things that we keep seeing about the poor little CRF here is I don't want to get that because it's an ugly dual sport. But you don't realize how awesome dual sports actually are. And I wanted to throw this thing up against it because this is our greatest of all time, frankly, beginner bike that we've ever had in here. It was a ton of fun, a lot of character, and a lot of just good times on this bike. But I also wanted to show that you can have just as much good times on the CRF on the street as you can with this. And I also wanted to prove to you guys that it kind of doesn't matter that this is a dual sport. You can still hang with your sport bike friends and do everything that they're doing because, I mean, we are on the street here, we're not on the track.
If we're being perfectly honest, all y'all beginner riders, y'all are slow as anyways, all right? Let's be perfectly honest. None of you are ripping up lap times, expert level. Like, I'm sure I could keep up with an R1 rider on the CRF on a twisty road, to be perfectly frank, honestly. I remember actually one time I was on the DRZ 400 giveaway bike a few years ago, and I was chasing down a GTR on our local twisty roads here. So, not to flex a little bit, but the dual sports can hang. Now, this Husqvarna Svartpilen 401 over here, we actually got off of Twisted Road. So this is actually a bike that we picked up as a rental motorcycle, and the guy told us that he actually picked it up because of our videos, didn't he?
Yeah, he probably looked at that video that has 615,000 views on it right now, and he's probably at least one or two of them.
Yep.
And yeah, he picked this up. He's got the Leo pipe on there, which looks eerily reminiscent of the one that we put on our bike.
The Yami Noob Special. We're gonna talk a little bit more about the specs on this one later, but if you want, hit the link down below to twistedroad.com. You can actually become a member over on yaminoob.co and get yourself 10% off on all your Twisted Road rentals, and you'll get entered to win this motorcycle right over here as well. Now, let's jump into the specifications on both of these machines. Let's get them out on the road and let's figure out once and for all if this is still the greatest of all time beginner motorcycle. All right, folks, as a quick refresher, in case you are not one of the 615,000 people who watched our comprehensive review over this bike, here's the specifications on this machine. Spite, what are we working with here?
It is the 373cc Thumper that KTM has been making. It's the baby version of what's in the SMCR and the 701s. That you'll remember that Whitney has the 701 version of this, which is basically this but better in every way because it's got all the cool features. But this thing is not devoid of cool features. It's got a 43 horsepower engine, 27 foot-pounds of torque, fully adjustable WPA Apex suspension on here, which is awesome for the price.
Very cool.
Quick shifter up and down, which is awesome. Works really, really well. This one is tuned, but it's usually comes with the Supermoto mode where you disable rear wheel ABS, which is another fun little feature, especially for something that is ostensibly a scrambler. Comes with Pirelli Rally Scorpions.
Yeah.
And it weighs
This one's fitted with sport touring rubber, right? It seems to have swapped out the Pirellis, which is a damn shame.
Want something that's a little bit more easygoing for renting out, I suppose, but I mean, they work pretty good, and we proved that RS10s can hill climb.
Absolutely.
So certainly these can scramble.
Yeah.
The bike itself comes in at $5,000, which is so much bike for the money, my God.
It's a lot of bike for the money, and it's actually a lot cheaper than the CRF, and it looks really cool. It's funny, like we haven't had this bike in the shop in almost 2 years now, and I'm kind of falling in love with it all over again. It's a really great little motorcycle, and I still stand by what I said, that it's like a really cool option for a beginner rider. I mean, look at this thing.
Yeah, I actually took it to bike night last night as I was taking it back to the shop. And a bunch of the guys were looking at it and they were like, that thing's really freaking cool. I want to go ride it.
Yeah.
And these are some old salty dudes who want nothing to do with small bikes. They're all
Yeah.
big bike dudes. And they're like, no, this thing's really sweet.
Yeah. So let's jump over to the CRF now and learn a little bit about it. All right, folks, so the contender for today, Honda's venerable CRF 300L. This is our new beginner bike giveaway motorcycle. It's actually getting wrapped up here in a couple months, so we don't have too much time with it left. We've had a lot of fun with this thing. Spike, quick specs on this thing.
286cc single that's coming out of your Honda CB300R, CBR 300R, Rebel. They all use the same engine. This one is slightly more tuned for off-road riding. It weighs 308 pounds, makes 28 horsepower and 19 foot-pounds of torque, thereabouts.
Okay, yeah.
So it's a little bit down on power, but it is also down on displacement. It weighs a lot less, 308 pounds wet and ready to ride, although we have all these big aggressive bags on here, so that's gonna add just a smidgen. This thing is basically your choice for off-road riding if you really want to go hit some trails after you start learning how to ride on the road.
Yeah, this is definitely the right choice for the aspiring off-road boy. However, non-adjustable suspension on this thing, but a 21 18-inch setup is going to help you off-road. If you want the full lowdown on this motorcycle, we did a full comprehensive ride and review of this thing. You can check that out on the channel. I covered just about everything as I possibly could on this motorcycle. And now, enough jibber jabber, we're going to get them out on the road. But first, a word from our sponsor.
You know, guys, I've been thinking about something. We spend a lot of money on helmets, like $200, $300, $400, $600, $800, $1,000 on helmets, but it protects your head, and your head doesn't cost anything. But you just have your phone, which costs like $1,000 sitting in your back pocket with no protection on it. You can just get a new head, but every time you drop your phone and crack it and need to buy a new one, that's $1,200. You need to protect your phone right with a rock form phone case. These things are drop tested from 6 feet, and I've got mine right over here, which I normally keep my phone in because I'm a smart boy. Rockform's phone cases are great pieces of kit. They mount up directly to their handlebars. They've got a whole bunch of accessories that use this nice little lock system on here. They don't just make cases and mounts though, by the way. They have a bunch of accessories for your phone, speakers, all that good stuff. Click the links down in the description below. Get yourself some of this nice Rockform goodness. 25% off using the code YN25. Now let's get back to that video.
Alrighty, folks, we're out here on the road with the Svartpilen 401 and the CRF 300L, back on the god tier beginner bike that the Svartpilen is. And Spite, I gotta say, we're riding these bikes and this bike is still very strong. I have to say, very strong beginner bike entrant. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it really holds up. I was riding it in last night. I was having a ball going in. Ton of fun, that little bike. So much to offer, too.
Yeah, I think with the fully adjustable suspension, the quick shifter up and down, which as we'll check here, down one gear, working great. This is a really complete package for the beginner rider, and the price point is just pretty killer. I mean, it's hard to beat a bike like this for the price point.
Yeah, it's there is so much in that motorcycle. The fact that you have all of those things and the switchable rear wheel ABS and the cool looks and you know, it's just like a list of features.
Yeah.
It's so hard to look at that and be like, no, pass. I want something else, you know?
Yeah, this is a really great starting point. And as we said in our original video, almost 2 years ago, if you don't know exactly the kind of riding you want to do, this thing is a great option because, like we said, it can tackle a fire road, gravel road, some light single track, and it is more than happy to go down a little twisty road like this and have a great time. Let's talk a little bit about the CRF. So, in directly comparing the Svartpilen to the CRF, what are you feeling, Spite?
So the main thing that I'm feeling out of the CRF that I'm missing off the Svartpilen is the extra displacement. I'm not gonna lie, 286 cc's, there are times it's not getting it done for me. I do appreciate that I am heavier than a lot of the average riders of a CRF, perhaps. It's a little bit underpowered for my weight, but you know, I was wide open throttle on the highway bringing it in up a hill, and I was watching the speedo go down. There was a little bit of the Grom effect, you know, which that's not fun, not when I'm trying to, you know, maintain highway speed and I can't. So that's the biggest black mark that I can find. Other than that, you know, I'm sitting here right behind you on this twisty road, and I'm having a good time plowing around through here.
Yeah, and even so, you're on that bike. It's on TKC 80s. It's not exactly a sport rubber, right? But you're right there with me. We're having fun.
Yeah, and I think that goes to show that it's not about, you know, having all of the specs, right? It's about how you use what you got. You can really have a good time on these dual sports basically anywhere. And even though we're probably not going to test it, although who knows, maybe we'll see a little bit of off-road riding today. We shall see.
We might.
You know, when the road ends, the dual sport, that's really where it's going to shine, man. You know,
yeah.
It might be a little bit wanting on the street, but then when you go off-road, you're gonna be like, oh wow, there's a whole other world out here.
Yeah, I think for a true 50-50 riding experience, the dual sport really is what you want to do, you know? Look at that Grom squid flying by us. No gear, LCR, love it. But,
all 9 horsepower.
Yeah. But as I was saying, the CRF 300L, you know, for a real 50-50 riding experience, it is impossible to beat a dual sport. They are designed to do that. But as we said, if you don't know what kind of riding you want to do just yet, the Svartpilen and bikes like the Svartpilen, these kind of scramblery kind of bikes, they work really well. And to Spike's point, this has a bigger engine in it. You know, it is cheaper than the CRF, and it's got a bigger motor, a more powerful engine. It's keeping me entertained, which as an experienced rider is definitely a big plus mark for a little bike like this. A lot of the entry-level beginner bikes we test, it's kind of hard to get yourself super excited about them. I'm looking at you, CBR 500R. Got to get those punches in there when we can, you know. And yeah, I mean, this is still a really fun motorcycle. And the fact that it comes with fully adjustable suspension is really cool as well. It's hard to make a case against the Spart, man. Even against the CRF 300L, which I consider to be a really fun and cool beginner bike option. Well, so we know the Svartpilen is going to be faster, but how much faster is it going to be, you know? Like, and is that going to be a deterrent? I think we need to solve that.
I would say you got to 8 bike lengths and sort of stayed there.
Yeah. Because the Spart, I mean, it is still like a 40-something horsepower little thumper. It's going to run out of steam pretty quick, so... And I gotta come back to it. The quick shifter here, although it is a cool feature, it really does not work super great when you get it up in the revs. I actually had to grab a gear myself because it was just stuck. So, yeah, I guess it doesn't work that great.
Yeah, the KTM gearbox in the singles is not exactly the best.
You know what? I say screw it. Let's get a little off-road test on these bad boys.
Sure.
Yeah, I gotta be a little more careful.
It's looking like it's a little wet back in here, so...
Let's see.
Oh man, on the TKC 80s, this is so good.
I mean, the Svart still is kind of conquering this. The ergonomics are weird to ride off-road, but it's working.
puttering away.
Yeah, it's obviously not as confidence inspiring as a dual sport. You have to ride it very carefully, and the ergonomics are peculiar, but I mean, it does it. It doesn't feel terrible doing it.
And that's the thing, man. That's why you would want to get a little scrambler like this, so you can experiment with stuff like this.
You want to give it a go?
Sure.
Can compare notes. Oh yeah, here we go.
Right?
Yeah, the whole thing just works.
Yeah, the rear tire's getting a little squirrely, but I mean, it's doing it.
Oh my goodness, the CRF just floats over everything.
I know, right?
Makes it fun too.
Like up this hill, this is gonna kind of suck a little bit. It does it, but I'm working harder on this bike. Yeah, you can sort of stand on it, but the ergonomics just, at least at my height, this doesn't really work.
Yeah, you'd need a much taller bar for that to work. But I mean, it got through it, you know, like...
And it just sort of did it. Like, it was complaining a little bit where the bars get a little bit squirrely on me, but I was out here, you know?
I think it's just a case where the front end is just like really stiff, you know?
Yeah.
The CRF just floats over stuff really nice, but the Svart is just really stiff and hard to manage some of that stuff. But it'll do it.
Sure will.
All right, folks, wrapping the day up here with the Svartpilen and the CRF 300L, and unfortunately it kind of turned into a bit of a dunk session on the CRF, huh?
Yeah, no, I mean, the Svart has so much going for it.
Yeah.
It's such a good package. Yeah, the quick shifter doesn't work all that great, but everything else works awesome, you know?
I mean, it's a KTM, so it's going to be a little bit weird, you know? Yeah, I think it's kind of nice and a bit validating to come back to this bike after a lot of time, and it's still really good. I think it still makes a great value case for itself. It's still a fantastic beginner bike option. I think the only reason you would get something like the CRF over that is if you really know you want to ride trails and you really know you want to ride off-road.
Yes.
This is a bike that if you don't know what you want to do just yet with motorcycling, great option. But if you know you want to ride off-road, this is pretty sweet, right?
Yeah, and I mean, as far as dual sports go, I think this is one of the more fancy looking ones. If you're looking at something like the DRZ 400, you probably shouldn't, because carburetors are a nightmare void into which all time and money goes and no happiness comes out. So a fuel injected dual sport, great option. I do wish this had more upmarket features like adjustability in the suspension. That would really elevate this package. A little bit more punch out of the mid-low end would be really appreciated, especially out of thumpers. I'm used to big thumpers that give me a lot of low-end torque. That's something I get out of this. Maybe it needs more displacement. Maybe it needs different whatever, but I don't know. It's really hard for me for the just riding on the street to want to take the keys to the CRF over the Svart.
However, the Svartpilen is a very diminutive motorcycle.
Very small.
I think that I think you just about fit on it. I think if you're any bigger than the average, you know, Spite, then you may not want it, you know.
This is, especially with the tank shape on here, this is very, very tight. If you are a taller rider, I highly recommend looking at dual sports just because
so much more room.
They're so roomy. They're so much more comfortable. And yeah, they don't have everything that these motorcycles do, but I think at the end of the day, despite us having a really glowing experience with this, we can't say that the CRF is a bad motorcycle.
Oh God, no. The CRF is awesome, guys. Like, this is a fantastic entry-level dual sport bike, and I highly recommend it to anyone who's a taller rider looking to ride off-road, just wants a bop-around bike, basically indestructible. This has all the Honda build reliability you'd come to expect versus that having weird Austrian things happening with it, you know? So, yeah, I would still highly recommend this motorcycle, but I think the Svartpilen 4.1 is still beginner bike GOAT. We still have not found anything that can topple that thing from its throne.
Yeah, we're gonna need to keep looking because, boy oh boy, this is such a nice package.
Yeah. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, hit up yammynoob.co, become a member to get access to 10% off on all your Twisted Road rentals. That's where we got this bad boy, and you'll get entered to win this motorcycle here as well. Big shout out to Rockform for supporting today's video, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later. Keep
watching.